I'm going to call to order the regular meeting of the Charter School Governing Board. Please stand for a moment of silence. And please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And roll call, please.
Boyer,
Here.
Cosden,
Here.
Donaldson, Fisher,
Here.
Jackson, Lucas Ross, McMillan, Winstead, Zivkovic.
Here.
Thank you. And now I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the June 14th meeting.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. And next is approval of this agenda. I have one suggestion and that is, well, do we have anyone that's going to speak at public input? Okay. What does the board think about moving it forward? We don't always have people coming to speak during public input.
I'm fine with
Okay, I think we need a motion to do that.
that. I'll make a motion, we move public comment to, after the approval, to number 6.
Right before the superintendent report?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So that brings us to public comment. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? So you're aware, public comment is limited to 3 minutes per individual with a 45-minute limit total. Please state your name for the record.
Jennifer Downs.
Hi.
Hi. I'm from Oasis Charter High School. I started my teaching career as an elementary school teacher for the Lee County School District. The principal I had was outstanding. She set the standard in my mind of what a perfect principal could be, and I thought nobody could set the bar higher. Then I moved to Oasis High School, and we had Miss Kimberly Lunger, and she again raised that bar of my standard. Along came Shannon Treese. In my opinion, there are no words sufficient enough to express my gratitude toward her leadership, both professionally and personally. Ms. Treese not only cares about her students and staff, but about their families as well. For example, my 3-month-old son was hospitalized in February, and I got many texts and calls daily checking in on him, offers to babysit my 2-year-old son so I could be at the hospital, even offers to bring us dinner at night. I would need much longer than 3 minutes to highlight all of the accomplishments that have been made by Ms. Treese since she has joined us, but I do want to point out one way that most of the staff feel, and that would be valued. I can honestly say that she has the most infectious positivity and spirit each and every time I hear her speak to the staff. From the encouraging words to the bits of advice, I always leave the staff meetings feeling invigorated and willing to do more for my students. She has encouraged us as teachers to do whatever it takes to actively engage our students at all times. She has sent many articles and extensive research into best practices for teachers to read at their convenience. These articles have been extremely helpful in my personal classroom management and with delivery of quality lessons. Our students shine above the rest and deserve the best. Over the year, we truly become like family. Students love to be at our school because it is a place they feel safe and valued. Our school does a great job in securing the strengths and eliminating the weaknesses of every student. With roughly 740 students and 40 teachers, the family vibe at our school is very strong. Our students are wise, kind, helpful, caring, compassionate, and hard workers. They are cousins, brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, sons and daughters, athletes, scholars, and most importantly, they are more than a test score. Ms. Treese is willing to do whatever is right for these students. I have seen the extra hours she has put in before and after school to make these student dreams possible. She has a very strong yes if and yes and policy, and her door has always been open. Not once have my ideas been turned down or discouraged, so long as they're for the benefit of the students, because after all, that is what we are here for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else wish to speak? Okay, I'm going to close public comment. That brings us to the superintendent report. Mr. Stevenson.
Good morning, board, public, staff members, community, and stakeholders. I am so excited for this start of the year. I've been a part of many starts of school years, and for some particular reason, and I've thought over and over what reasons I could give you why this one's particularly exciting. I can't. There's no words to really describe, but I can tell you from the start of school activities to the open houses that I've participated in and been a part of, I am just, if the word is technical, it's pumped for this coming school year. So that's as technical as I can get. Before I begin, though, really, I would like to welcome a new administrative staff member. I think it's very important for us to recognize that we had a loss over this last year of one of our employees leaving, unfortunately, and so we were rasped with, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And so I would like to just welcome and introduce for 1 second. You don't have to speak yet, okay? So you'll get that opportunity. But I did just want to welcome Mr. Donnie Hopper. So Donnie, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you being here, okay? Thank you so very much. He has already been approachable. I've received so many emails from the community, and if you could have been there last night to see the receiving line at the elementary school, it was backed out into the parking lot, literally like a receiving line. So he was standing in the door shaking the hand of everybody that would come in. So already your energy is infectious and it's just added to what we already have in terms of our administrative personnel. So thank you for being here. The thing that I really wanted to do is celebrate. We never had a real opportunity to celebrate our Advanced Ed accomplishment. Advanced Ed is an organization that is internationally known and recognized. It is a group of 4 or 5 individuals that come in. They are experts in the field, and they basically do an audit of our system. So for those of you in the public that don't know what that's about, they spend 4 days. And when I say they spend 4 days, they talk to parents, students, they talk to teachers, they talk to administrators, they talk to our board members. So they had an opportunity to review everything. They go through our financials, they go through our grades, they go through literally every piece of our system. And for the first time in our school history, and it is a huge deal, we have received the Advanced Ed accreditation, which will last us all the way until June of 2021. So this is a huge accomplishment. It is not done on any one person's shoulders. It's a system-wide effort. It was, as everything with charter system, we wear multiple hats, and I'll tell you, our administrative team and our teachers, our students, all those that participated, our governing board and parents, I just can't say enough of thank you for being involved in this process. So I wanted to make sure that we celebrate that as well today. We have these really beautiful plaques that we have, and we have them made, and so each school will be receiving one, plus our main headquarters will have one. So I wanted to make sure that the public was aware of what we have been doing and what we've done. And again, this is the first time in our system's history, and it's a very difficult accomplishment. So this isn't something you just easily do, and so I want to again thank everybody for that. Our opening day ceremony, for those that weren't able to attend, our focus this year is family and culture. We highlighted specifically the Luau for Life. We have a parent and a student in our system that are part of the Luau for Life organization. And I can only tell you that I was so impressed to see the positive attitudes that we had going on. But we did something very different, and I have to give Ms. Shannon Treese credit for it. She came up with the idea of having our staff members create small 30-second snippet videos of why our system is so great. Now, I'm going to show you 3 of them. It'll take about 2 minutes or less. But I want you to consider, as we're looking at these, that these were done by multiple members of our staff. In other words, we had people that were joined in groups from elementary, middle, and high school. We are working very hard on integrating, and one of the things that Advanced Ed pointed out is that we sometimes operate in silos. And so in this particular case, we force-compelled our staff to get together, and so it was really an exciting event. So as we watch these, you'll see 3 of them, and these were our runner-ups and our ultimate winner. Again, consider they had about an hour and a half to complete this task with, in some cases, people that they didn't even know.
join our family. Where the governing board, teachers, support staff, administrators, and superintendent provide a nurturing and caring environment. A place where students are encouraged to reach their full potential in school and in life.
So clearly, it was a fun event and fun day, and I want to thank the administrative team as well, who were wearing everything from inflatables to goggles to whatever else to illustrate the Luau for Life and how we are part of that. And if you were able to see, or if not, the speech that came from one of the parents that spoke, it was an emotional speech and really tied in how our system has, as a family, worked together. So we think that ties in quite a bit. The videos, there are about 30 other videos or so, and those will also be shown on our various websites. They'll be shown at things like Open House or whenever we have an opportunity for the public to see. So you will get to see some of our teachers in completely different roles, and it's kind of fun. So I've had a good time kind of as now I look at them and say, hey, you're that person that was rapping in the video, not the teacher that I know. So there's just a lot of positive things there going on. And I did want to mention also with our new employees, I was able to go to a new employee meeting yesterday. And again, I'm so glad that they joined our organization, but I'm really proud of our veteran staffs who are kind of taking the role of mentors and taking that seriously and actually welcoming them. So again, yesterday we had all of our new staff meeting together to try to bring, again, our system together as a whole. We've had many real professional development opportunities in our schools happening already. I'll leave it to the principals to talk about what they've done, but we also this year are going to roll out the Safe Schools program, which is where all of our staff members will be documented training. They'll get certificates for bloodborne pathogen exposure, prevention of child abuse and the mandatory reporting, hazard communications, right to understand, and bullying recognition and response. Those are the 4 mandatory trainings that all of our staff will go, but also that software that we bought will also allow us to do individual trainings for staff members should the need arise. So there's a variety of things, and they are done in English and Spanish. They're done for custodial staff. They're done for food service, bus, etc. So we're really excited about that. We have also restructured over the summer. We've been busy. We've restructured the custodial system in our school to reflect what I believe is a much better path for rapid response, which is now the principals are the main authority of those custodians within their building, and that goes from the principal to the custodian, or to the maintenance personnel, and then to the custodian. And each school has a lead custodian. And this way we think that the response will be much faster rather than housing that in the administrative area where then I would have to respond and then go back and ask the questions. So we've met as an administrative team, and I think that's a good step forward. We also have worked for the first time ever to create an insert in our faculty handbook that has a lot of commonalities. In other words, the things that should be consistent across all 4 schools. And so for the first time in our system's history, we have a common section. Now, this did not impact what the principals wanted to have in their individual handbooks for other areas, but for the things that we found that should be the same, we have now done that. So we had a long meeting this summer, and we've hammered that out. Actually, we had a couple meetings on that. And so again, to get away from that silo mentality as much as possible, we've done that. So I do want to thank the administrators for being involved in that. I did receive a call from the Cape Coral Breeze as well, and they are going to be looking at putting us into the What's Cool in School section, finally. So we're excited. I told the administrative team we're excited about that opportunity. Now the challenge is to do this weekly. So that is going to be a role that will be shared amongst responsible folks here, and we've got some great ideas from some of the administrative team on how we can accomplish that. And then finally, the only other part of my report, I will be talking about our infrastructure tech part later in our strategic plan. But I did want to say that I'm going to be working on forming several committees together in which I'm going to be asking the board members to volunteer also. And I know last year you guys put in a significant amount of time volunteering, but also I will provide that opportunity to you. I'm going to be looking at things like salary committee, safety committee, curriculum committee, perhaps tech committee, system-wide. So I'm going to be rolling that out too. So I just wanted to give you some insight into kind of the mindset of where we're headed this year. I also will be having a parent night at each of the schools. And then we also will be doing some work with the faculty in each school as well. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I was able to attend almost every school's open house and at least be around the campus a lot more than I was last year. So, any questions?
Any questions? Sure.
Thank you so much.
Next is my report. I attended the kickoff day for the schools last week, and I was really happy to see the general attitude there. People were cheerful. It was great to see how many employees had been there since the very beginning. Those people stood up. There's still a lot of people there, so that was impressive. It was really good to see how excited everyone is for the new school year. And with that, I'd like to welcome Donnie Hopper to our system and just wish everyone good luck for the upcoming school year. I have a feeling it's going to be a good one. Next is the foundation report. Do we have Mr. Stevenson?
Chris Porter is not here at this time, but I will tell you we'll have a much more updated report next meeting because we will be meeting this, I believe it's Thursday of
yep.
this week. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next is staff comment. First is Kristen McAuliffe.
Good morning, everyone. Jackie Collins, Kristen McAuliffe Elementary. Yes, we are getting ready for tomorrow to kick off the school year. It's a very exciting time. Teachers had their first week back, so they've had their, we've had our staff meetings, we've had our logistics meetings. We're ready for tomorrow to get everybody into shape. We have quite a few new staff members that we welcomed at the kickoff ceremony. I'm particularly happy to announce that we have a new male teacher. He's our music and theater teacher this year. His name is David Lanzone. It's always nice to have more positive male role models in an elementary school because usually it's a sea of women teachers. So we're welcoming him, plus a couple other teachers that we have across various grade levels. Just very quickly, I wanted to let you know that our focus this year is the integration of technology into the curriculum. As we go towards one device per student, we need to come up with new curricular ideas as far as how can we involve students learning and thinking critically involving technology, which also leads me into the other focus this year is problem-based learning, which solves big, important questions based on student research, collaboration, and critical thinking. So those will be our two focuses this year. And when we have our early release days, that's something that we'll be working on those 5 days throughout the school year. Let's see, we have Boosterthon again this year. That's going to be our primary fundraiser for our school. I believe they're coming to Oasis Elementary as well. The money that they raise for Boosterthon will be put towards our technology pot, so to speak, so that we can work towards getting those devices in the students' hands. Let's see. And we're happy to announce that we have a new kindergarten curriculum this year called Super Kids. Like I said earlier, what we're finding is that we have large gaps in the upper grades in curriculum, comprehension and decoding, and we're finding that our basal reading program Journeys is not meeting the needs of our students. So this is a brand new curriculum that involves decoding as the primary means to learn how to read, and blending as opposed to memorizing sight words and things like that. So we'll give you a progress report at the end of the year. If all things go well, we'll purchase it for first grade next year and then second grade the year after that. Any questions?
Go ahead.
I just want to thank you for that switch of curriculum. One of the things that I've always enjoyed working with you, Ms. Collins, is how quickly you adapt when you see something's not working. So, and here's another example of you switching curriculum because we have to. And so thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And next is Oasis Elementary.
Good morning, everybody. So excited to be here. Thanks for the welcome. Wanted to share with you kind of who I am before we get started. So, a little bit about me. I was born and raised right here in Lee County. I attended Fort Myers High School, went to Edison Community College back when it still was Edison, did my bachelor's work in special education at the University of South Florida, and did my master's work for ed leadership at Nova Southeastern University. Started working in schools many years ago as a helping teacher, and I started at Three Oaks Elementary in Lee County here. This is my 15th year as an administrator and my 10th year as a principal. And I have, without a doubt, landed at the greatest elementary school in all of Lee County. There are great things taking place. You know of many of them, and we invite you out anytime to come see those things. The staff is unbelievably hardworking. Their passion for working with kids can be felt the minute you walk into our hallways, and we got to experience that last night for the first time with students and parents. Our parents are super supportive and involved, and of course, most importantly, our students. Last night, as I said, was our open house. We have 895 students registered for this year. And after talking to all of the teachers last night, we believe that we saw just about all of them last night, and that's an amazing turnout. It was my first chance to see the kids. As Mr. Stevenson mentioned, I was able to shake hands and give some high fives and some low fives. And the kids are so polite, and they're so eager to get back to school, which is so refreshing to see. Going on at Oasis, I have met individually with almost every teacher. I thought that was really important to do, to hear what the teachers had to say about things that are working, and they would tell me, please don't change. So they shared one or two of those things, because there's lots of them, but I wanted them to share a couple. And then if they were sitting in my seat, what is the one thing they would change immediately? And we know that with any system, we can be better. Even though we are doing amazing things, there's still improvements that can be made. So we are working to identify, and I have, with the staff, identified a couple specific areas to focus on this year. The first one is absolutely, without a doubt, the most important, and it's providing a safe and secure learning environment for all of our students. We'll be focused on that. Also, we need to ensure our students are receiving the best possible academic experience that they can, and we'll be focused on that this year as well. We are doing the same fall fundraiser as Krista McAuliffe, and it is the Booster-thon. It kind of brings together a character ed component along with an exercise component. We just met about that yesterday. We'll be doing that in early September. And we'll have lots of other things to share with you as we move into the year, and I learn more about Oasis Elementary. I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to an amazing school year where we will earn back our A grade from the state of Florida. Thanks so much.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you. You're good. Next is Oasis Middle.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Cram, principal of Oasis Charter Middle School. We too are off and running at a quick pace. We had our open house this past Friday evening. It was extremely well attended. A little bit different of a format. We had everybody sort of report to a classroom and get some information that they didn't get in the past, and a little bit easier. So cut down on the amount of time folks stood in line waiting for certain things, so it went well. Interesting to see, we had over 150 students that were interested in participating in our chorus class that Ms. Myers is going to put together and add to the performing arts at the middle school. She also had over 250 kids that were interested in participating in this year's production of Legally Blonde. So she has a task ahead of her. But we talked, and I said it's a good problem to have for sure, and she agreed. So she's very eager to get that up and moving. This week, too, new staff are getting them on board and getting them all caught up with policies and procedures and expectations, and they are a bit overwhelmed, but that's expected. And but they are excited to get in the classrooms and get kids tomorrow and get rolling with things. Big focus has been Schoology. We're going to get that learning platform I discussed late last year for all teachers and parents and students to sort of get a little bit more involved in not only technology, the use, but the kids can start building upon electronic portfolios that they can carry with them throughout high school and take that with them into college and use that as a building block. But as soon as we get a grasp on that, our teachers were in training yesterday, and then they're also in training today, getting that information to all the staff that weren't available to take it yesterday. But once that gets up and running, we're going to hold some parent workshops in the evening to give them some crash courses on it so that they can access their student accounts and see what's going on in classrooms and as far as curriculums go. So that's probably our biggest thing. We too are getting into the fundraising mode. We have our big fundraiser here kickoff in about 2 weeks with American Fundraising, so hopefully that'll be the same. We're going to probably look at still in some discussions as to what the fundraiser items are going to be, but we'll take a look at some cookie dough items and things like that. But a lot of those funds, again, will be distributed into technology and getting things set up for upcoming here. Other than that, that's about it. We're off and running.
Boyer?
I just had a quick question. We received an email about the grading system changing for middle and senior high school. Is that accurate, or are we maintaining the same grading system?
No, the grading scales as well as the quote-unquote policies will remain the same as they always have been. We had some discussion. We just wanted to have something in place, whether it's an opportunity hour after school or an academic detention kind of thing, if you wanted to call it that, after school, as far as giving kids the opportunity to make up assignments that they may be struggling with or didn't get a chance to turn in or whatnot, just giving those opportunities out.
Okay,
But that's
that
a discussion that's
can
always
still
been
stay in place even with the grading system that we have in place now?
Right,
Okay.
correct, yeah.
All right, because that is a policy, so if we're going to make any changes, the board
The grading
really
scale is
needs to be
correct,
involved
yep.
in that. Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next is Oasis High School.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So you have a copy of my written report, and I will hit just a few highlights, and then if you have questions, I'll be happy to respond to those as well. I, too, am excited for year two. I know the first year seemed very fast and furious, and while we accomplished a lot, there's still plenty more work to do. Our open house went very well. We took a little different approach this year and made it a little lower key, just to get folks in the door to meet teachers. We felt like just with the number of new staff, that was an important piece for students to be able to come in, find their locations, meet their teachers, and move on. Some of the feedback that I received last year with the PowerPoint and the structure was that it was a little too much. So we just nixed that, and we did a little intro with the freshmen at the beginning, and then allowed them to just leisurely come through the building at their own pace, and that seemed to work very well. We had a lot of positive feedback that night from our parents. Our opening PD was incredibly positive. I want to echo the sentiments of the rest of the team. It just felt good. It just felt refreshing that day. It was the best day that I think I've had in a very long time, to be able to walk in and just feel the energy and to see the passion of those folks that are serving our children. So it's felt extremely good to be in there. Our PD for the week, much like the others, is really training and getting those new staff in sync with our policies and procedures and handbooks. So some of it's just those housekeeping things. But then we've also really tried to do some team building activities with our staff and really get to know each other, and what does it look like in our building, and what does it need to look like for the benefit of our students? How do we make sure that we are a team and we are working as one, so that it equates to positive interactions and academic supports for our students as well throughout the year? In terms of new staff, I highlighted the new staff. I gave that to you in the spring. We've added a few and had a few adjustments. One of the main emphasis that I want to speak on, because I was very passionate about this last year, was getting dual enrollment in our building. And we have been able to accomplish that with math, which is a very difficult subject to hire anyway, but we have been able to hire an individual who is now able to offer dual enrollment math to our students at our campus, which is very exciting. That's a cost saver for us, because we're not spending money to send them somewhere else, but I think the beauty in that is access. It's access to all students, whether they can drive or not. it's the equity issue of any student who wants to be in that college level course has the opportunity to do so right here with the support of our teachers behind them. So I just wanted to point that out. If you have an opportunity to stop by the school, stop by and see our innovation lab. The ability to buy new computers this year with some of our funds has already allowed us to do some shifting to meet student needs a little better. And you can see that through our innovation lab. And it's not perfect. It's progressing, but what we were able to do, we purchased 173 devices for our students to be able to use, and so we're going to put those devices in departments. We're going to try to do a couple carts per department so that teachers can have access to those devices when they need them in class to support student learning. What that did was allowed us to take away our 2 computer lab classrooms. Because we no longer needed those. So we were able to take those laptops, put them on carts, and basically make our technology mobile. With our 2 classrooms, we were able to move our media center, the student portion into one section, and then our teacher resources in a conference room into the other. And so just with a minor tweak, we were able to open up 3 possibilities of supporting people in different ways. And I just wanted to share my support. Your support means a lot on my end when we're really trying to make those changes and really honor the students and what it is that they desire. So we have a lot of students that have expressed interest in engineering and just getting in hands-on, building things, designing things. You all know that our drone program took off last year. We have just as many students or more that are interested in that this year, and lots of other technologies that are available, but we did not really have the potential to service those students. So again, I appreciate your support. I know budgets are hard discussions. I know when you're doing things differently and change is happening, that sometimes it's hard to see through that change, but this is one that I wanted to articulate for you all, and please come by and see it. It really, it's really a neat space already. We also have teachers who attended PBL training. I've mentioned PBL frequently last year. It's not a new subject, but we specifically had 3 teachers who went to training to really learn the process of project-based learning, because it does not delete rigor. It doesn't take rigor out of the equation. In fact, that is the purpose, is to make it more meaningful, more rigorous, because it's the application to the real world. And so we have folks that are willing to share, open up their classrooms, train other teachers. This afternoon we actually have them training some of our other staff in what it looks like, how the design is done, so that it meets the needs of our students academically. We also had teachers who attended the Model Schools Conference and have come back and also been able to bring ideas back on how to improve what we're doing. The curriculum, I, like Mr. Hopper, will very clearly tell you that we will not be a B school for long. We know what our issues were. I stated that in my report. I've shared that with you all before. We very specifically know where those gaps are with students. We know the interventions that need to take place. We know the curriculum that needs to be adjusted. We know what needs to happen. So I feel very confident that in the work of our staff this year and with the administrative team and looking at those issues and building those structures and getting those structures in place, that we can make some headway. This didn't happen in the course of a year. This happened over time, and so it's going to take us a little time to get that status back, but I don't think it will take us long, because I think we can do some minor tweaking to really make some progress quickly with our students. That is it for me today. I do have some students that are going to be presenting some work that they have done over the summer through the JROTC program, and some of our other students that are involved in the ACE program that are going to approach one of our courses a little differently to see if we can't make it more meaningful to them. So I'm not going to touch on those because they are going to be speaking on those items in just a few minutes.
Ms. Boyer?
I just wanted to thank you for this excellent governing board report. You know, we've never received anything like this. I mean, this really gives an excellent picture of what's going on with your school, with staff and students, and so congratulations.
Thank you.
Ms. Lucas Ross?
I echo that. Great report, written and in person. You're doing a lot of great things. I thank you for the very thorough update. I do want to ask about any updates with the band program. I didn't see that in here. I know at some point we were talking about marching band or anything. I wanted to see if there was anything moving forward.
Yes, Mr. Willison and I have been in contact. We've even met this summer just to kind of, okay, where are we? He actually has ordered instruments. We were able to get that funding early enough that he was able to order instruments. Part of our barrier at probably both the middle and high school is scheduling, because we're having to share him. and that makes it incredibly difficult. And that's what we've learned this summer is you already have difficulty when you're a small school and you have so many singleton classes, and when we're sharing, that at some point is going to have to be a discussion of, in order to grow that program, we are probably going to have to look at how can we support that program by additional teachers, maybe at the middle and the high, because in order to really build the high school program and to build that marching band, he's got to have a funnel into there. It's very difficult for him to pick them up, later in their careers, and he does an awesome job. I mean, if you have met Mr. Willison, if you are in our building, he's there constantly. He will tutor students who are very new on instruments, but I think then the flip side of that is it's very hard for him to move into that next level of competition without those support. So we are supporting him. We know that we have students that desire to have the marching band. It really is a matter of coordinating schedules, coordinating, students, and seeing how we can really make that happen within our buildings.
Excellent, thank you.
Yes, we're still very much interested in providing that program.
Mr. Zivkovic.
I think our other principals have a little pressure on them after this 14-page report we got this morning. Great job. Great job, Ms. Treese. I'm sure you're going to pay for it later with them. I just wanted to, actually in the appendix you have here something that I wanted to help with a little bit of publicity for. You have the Makerspace letter, and we are asking for donations of anything, basically.
Yes.
Gift cards, used or new power tools, used or new hand tools, safety equipment, organizing items, raw materials, scrap materials. So just to get it out there to the community, I know there are a lot of garages out there with a lot of unused tools.
That'd be great.
So you can bring them to Oasis High School, and we'd greatly appreciate that. And I've got some coming, so.
Absolutely. We'll write letters of donations as well for you.
Yeah, great. The band pipeline, I think, I don't know if you've spoken, Ms. Collins, you started a band program, is it 2 years or 1 year ago? It was last year. But it seemed to be successful. I know there were several kids in that, so I know maybe we can figure out if Mr. Hopper can implement something like that too, because those skills are better learned earlier and those passions ignited, and then to help you with that pipeline for the band program. And just thank you. Thank you for all you do. You have my support. Nice job, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you for the reminder about the donations. That's good to bring up. Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Ms. Treese.
Thank you.
Next, item 11A is under unfinished business, strategic plan.
We're already back to strategic planning time, right? It seems like that just happened, but I wanted to just talk first date. We right now have this typically runs in conjunction with one of our board meetings. So the next date would be September 13th, according to what I was looking at last night. So we would have a strategic plan on that date. So I don't know if that works for the board. If it doesn't work for the board, I wanted to make sure that we would have enough people there. If we need to move, I'm absolutely fine with that as well. So I wanted to throw that out for a topic of conversation first.
Would that be an all-day?
It's, right now I have slated from 9 to 2.
Okay. We can just go ahead and discuss.
Just wanted to make sure they.
Boye?
I don't know if it's possible to move it a week, because I'm not going to be here. But if you have enough people, obviously, go ahead.
And I won't be here either.
Okay.
Moving out, honestly, would be assistive anyway, in regards to getting things prepped and ready, because we are at the start of school. So it's in terms of putting stuff together, ultimately a better product might be there if we had a little bit more time, but if not, it's no problem. So it's really up to the board.
How does the rest of the board?
September 20th? So we'd have 2 people missing on the 13th. What about the 20th? Is everyone available?
20th would work for me. I don't know.
I'm still out of town.
You're still out of town?
She's going to be gone for a long time, I think.
Okay.
She may not come back. That's how good that trip is going to be.
Okay, so that's 2 that can't do it on the 20th also. Mr. Fisher
Okay.
can't. So that puts it, if we push it down another week, that would be the 27th?
Well, do we have to do it on a Tuesday?
No, there's no, this is
Can
a
it be
matter of
later
you
that
all.
week? In other words, like that Thursday? Or would that be the 22nd?
22nd?
Does that help anybody? The 22nd? Does that help? If it's the
That works.
22nd?
I'm looking at mine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, September 22nd?
Wednesday, September 22nd, great.
We just need to.
Thursday.
Thursday, I'm sorry, sorry.
We need to make sure that, well, if it's not, we could do it.
We have options. We're going to seek the yacht club first. If that's not open, then we'll come back to here if we
Okay.
have to. And then if not, we have a third
This is
option.
for the strategic plan meeting?
Yes, it'll be board meeting, and then we roll into the strategic plan right after.
So that will be our monthly, regular board meeting
Yes,
that
which
day.
is like what we did, just the same, for those of you there, we did it last year, the same thing, so.
What about using the library
The 13th goes away, moves to the
Right.
22nd, board meeting and strategic.
to be confirmed when, yeah, yes.
That's great.
Okay, and in that, I wanted to, as I told you, this is going to be unfinished business forever. As long as I'm here, I figure strategic plans are not those documents that we do and then put away on the shelf. So in that vein, I wanted to follow up with goal 7.1.2, which relates to our technology infrastructure upgrade. And so I wanted to let you know this summer that monies that were applied, the work was completed. We are actually implementing a full kind of a test here very shortly of the whole system. It was all done. We just are implementing it in phases. But I did want to thank, again, multiple people wearing multiple hats. First of all, our staff this summer that endured internet times down. You know, nowadays when that goes down, you kind of, like my son looks at me when it goes out Wi-Fi, and what do I do now? You know, so it's the same for our staff as well. There's lots of work that they did around this. And our IT folks at our school system, they just were working, Steve Burley, for instance, was working on his anniversary at 7 or 8 at night. We finally said, you got to go. So there's just a lot of people, almost too many really to name. But I also, we do partner with the city quite a bit. And I do want to thank from the very beginning the director of IT at the city of Cape Coral. She was willing to meet with me within a week or two of her starting, which I know her time was busy because we knew this was a big project. This was earlier this year. And she has just been amazing, and she's provided the personnel and support that we needed, that we sometimes needed just to have double to make sure that we were doing what we needed to do, and just that additional expertise. So when it comes to the city and our relationship, I do want to thank them really, because without their help, this would have been a much more difficult project. And then rolling into what we're going to do in the strategic plan, just so you get a sense of my mindset, but I would also like your feedback. And this will be ongoing, not exactly right now, you don't have to, but I believe we have our strategic plan in place. We have the tenets of where we need to be. I believe the focus moving forward needs to be specifics into each area. If you look at the strategic plan, I kind of broke out early last year kind of who would do what and kind of ongoing. But I think we really need to hone down. And so in other words, I just would like to drill down instead of looking at it as, okay, at a table, what are the things we need to do? Now, if there's something new that we need to add, I'm absolutely amenable to that. But I also think that a lot of the time that we spend should be literally saying, okay, this is what we've said we're going to do. Is this still meet where we need to be? And if it does, then what are the things specifically that we need to do? A couple of target goals, in other words, under each of the areas. So that's the way that I would like to drive this one versus before it was more of an open format and an idea forming session. This would be more of a drill down. You're going to sit at the table with 8 or 10 people and we're going to say, okay, specifically this is what needs to happen. So that when we leave, we have an effective instrument that will give standards of who's going to do what, when it's going to be done, more than what I did last year, which was an after the fact. We put ideas on the paper and then later I went back in and said, okay, well, this is who will do whatever. I think we should kind of do that at this meeting. So, and then that can also tie into a couple of other areas. So just want you to know strategic plan will not stop with unfinished business, and so there will always be a report. And then moving into Neola. Neola is also one of those that will be an unfinished business. As you know, it was last updated in 2007, so this board spent a significant amount of time last year in workshops working on updating our Neola policies. So I want to let you know we have not stopped. Our administrative team has donated time this summer, before the summer started, to try to assist us with the procedure piece. As you know, the policies are one piece of the puzzle, but then the procedures and putting together in place what we actually will do with those policies is a whole nother. Procedures don't have to come in front of the board, but I will be submitting to you the procedures. So once we complete the procedures, I'll be submitting to you for your review so that you can see what determinations we've made based on the policy adjustments you've made. But I also want you to know that we are going to include in these meetings as we move forward our assistant principals and curriculum people in buildings, perhaps some teachers, as we look forward to the procedure piece, putting that together, so that in terms of how we just say what we're going to do and what actually happens will be done with a bigger group of people. And it also will help build internal leadership capacity, which we're excited about working on as well. I have also met with Mr. Tom Young. Our principals were more than willing to do it, but unfortunately it was right at the start of school. It was last Monday. But we have updated 10 already. As you know, the legislature, as they go through these, Neola reviews them and looks for statutes that have changed. For our next meeting, what I'll be bringing to you is 10 updated procedures. Understand in this particular case, policies. I should make sure to be clear with that. I'll be bringing you the 10 policies. What it will show you is what it was and what it's been changed to. And in this case, I think they're relatively simple because they are statutory changes. So for the most part, there's not much that in terms of discussion unless anybody has a question about why the statute is done that way, which is a whole other thing. So I just wanted you to know you'll be getting those updates. We're already doing that and continuing to do that. We should have 2 a year, so that was our first round. You'll get another one probably about 6 months down the road where we'll get another update from Neola. But if in the interim there are any more, I'll continue to leave this on there, so that will stay on there. And very shortly here, we'll be putting up our policy website for our staff members, which means our staff members will be able to go in and all those policies that we've adopted so far, they'll be able to at least look at those. We are short on procedures, but remember, procedures don't have to be board-driven. So if we need to come up with a procedure on a policy right away, we'll do that. The reason I would like to do that is I don't want to wait. We've done so much work in this policy arena, and if I continue to let those not be out there and our staff not have access to them, I think that we're kind of doing a disservice. So I'd like to go ahead and post those on the website, so I wanted to let you know about that. And I'll be sending an email to staff about all that as well. But that allows them to go in and see what rules we really are governed under and how it works. And as always, I'll be open to any questions from either the board members, staff members, administrators, anybody else. It is a working document. As Mr. Young, our Neola consultant, reminded me, if we find ourselves in a spot where we think our procedure and or policies don't match, then I'll come back to you with a policy adoption to change what that policy might be. So it is a lot of work, as you know, and I just want you all to be clear, as long as I'm here, that's not going away in terms of making sure we stay up to date on that. But I am glad to say that it's a lot less work than it was last year in terms of that being done. And that's the report on both strategic plan and Neola that I have for now.
Ms. Boyer? I just had a question. I know you sent us an email earlier about the procedures for field trips, but I don't remember seeing, what I'm specifically interested in is the items that come before the board for approval on field trips, so that it be a uniform form across the board and the complete documentation be there in terms of transportation, who the chaperones are going to be, that whole thing, and that it be consistent across the 4 schools.
Absolutely. And that the issue with something like that is that's a mixture of both a policy and a procedure. We have a policy for it, but we've got to develop the procedure that says this is what we do.
Right. I saw some forms, but I didn't
Yes.
exactly see that.
And we'll work as an administrative team, we'll work together. We've determined we're going to meet twice a month as an administrative team. One will be right before these meetings, the week before, and then one after, the week after. So during those, we'll make sure to unify and make sure that those are presented. Again, getting out of that silo mentality and doing it more as a system. But also, I want to be clear with everyone that I never want it to be a systemic road bump kind of procedure. In other words, I don't want 8 procedures on a field trip. You know, we're never going to get to that point, so I want to make that assurance to everybody out there. It's just that we're going to uniform the procedure, but never, ever will we work to try to make it onerous on either the staff just to take a day off or anything else like that. It will always be a simplistic form. It'll just be that it'll be consistent across all 4 schools. So.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Next, we have item 12A, the JROTC presentation.
All right, so Brandon Pearson is going to begin, and then each of the following students who have been involved and some of this work are going to speak to what they have done this summer. So here's Brandon Pearson. This is your battalion commander for Oasis High School as well, for our JROTC program.
Good morning, board members. As Ms. Treese said, I'm the battalion commander for this coming school year, and this past summer I had a lot of great opportunities presented to me because of my involvement in junior ROTC. I had the opportunity to actually attend 3 very prestigious summer programs. I started off by going to the United States Military Academy at West Point's Summer Leadership Experience. This was followed up then by a 1 week long experience at Florida Atlantic University, studying in their H2O to Go program, learning about the Florida Everglades. And then I finished up by going to the Florida American Legion Boys State at Florida State University. And all three experiences, when it came down to it, gave me great insight into fields often overlooked in a traditional high school curriculum. But more importantly, they showed me fields that I never knew I was passionate about. And personally, the experience that I took the most away from was Florida American Legion Boys State. My journey to Boys State started months ago, back when I interviewed with American Legion Post 90 in January. I was one of 5 students selected from this area to go to this very prestigious event that featured 527 other boys from throughout the state of Florida. During our week there, we had the opportunity to build a government all the way from the local level to the state level, electing offices ranging from postmaster all the way up to the governor of our new state. And in the process, we actually had the opportunity to model many of the different bodies that run our state. And I had the opportunity to serve in the Assembly, which was essentially our state's version of the House of Representatives. We worked on many major issues that impacted us both at the local and state level, ranging from things such as gun control to the economy and tax reform. And I had the opportunity to be recognized actually by the Tallahassee Democrat on proposals that I was making in the Assembly on things like gun control, which was pretty amazing. And I was recognized as the most valuable legislator. And to be honest, when it came down to it, it was such an amazing experience because in high school, you learn about your national government, you learn about the Senate, you learn about the House, you learn about the executive branch, but you don't learn about how your state runs. You don't learn how it runs at the local level. And just having that insight was so powerful. And it truly showed me that maybe one day I'll want to go into politics, maybe pursue us as a secondary career. And I can honestly say Boys State is something that I'll never forget in my life. And it's something I want to encourage my fellow students to go to in the future. It's open to rising juniors, and I think that if they have the opportunity to interview with the local American Legion Post, it's something that they should do because it's real-world experience. And you might be thinking, oh, some kids up in Tallahassee just proposing legislation, that's not going to do anything. Well, Boys State and its counterpart Girls State plays such an integral role here in the state of Florida and in the nation, really, because bills that are proposed at Boys State and Girls State actually go on to the actual government, and they actually work on these in the national government, which is pretty amazing. So with that, I would like just to say that if any of you guys have children that are going to be in high school this year, going on into their junior year, definitely encourage them to look into this program. And for any of those juniors that might be watching, check it out. It's a really amazing program. And with that, I would like to introduce the next speaker, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Mary Hess.
Thank you very much.
While Mary's walking up, Brandon, you might want to apply for the intern spot in Ms. Cosden's office. I think she's looking.
Yeah, I could use, yeah.
All right, good morning. My name is Mary Hess, and I am the battalion's deputy commanding officer. Over the summer, I had the opportunity to travel to Annapolis, Maryland, and participate in the United States Naval Academy Summer Seminar. This is a selective 5-day program in which you're able to stay in the dormitory and really experience life at a service academy. We were exposed to the physical, academic, and leadership aspects of the academy, and it was really a great opportunity for myself. For the physical part, we had PT every morning, and then we got to participate in one day. It was called Sea Trials, in which, this is the same thing that plebes do their freshman. This is their freshman year. And it's a whole day-long thing where you go from station to station doing different exercises and team-building exercises. And it was definitely really tough, but we learned how to work as a really solid and functioning team. And it was an amazing experience. And then after that, we were exposed to the mental training that some of the freshmen are forced into at the academy. It's called indoctrination. Basically what this is you're quizzed on your general knowledge while the detailers are yelling at you. So I really took a lot away from this day because I fell in love with the focus they had on the mental training as well as the physical training. And you really have to work as a team. You can't just focus on yourself. You have to care for your team as well as yourself. We also participated in 6 academic workshops. And I personally took a lot away from these workshops because I learned that I possibly might want to major in oceanography. That was one of my workshops because it combines my passion for chemistry with ocean science. Also, each night we had a company-wide ceremony where detailers as well as other candidates could nominate a candidate for doing something spectacular. And I was fortunate enough to have my detailer nominate me during Sea Trial Day, and I was able to lead the Blue and Gold song, which was a really cool experience because you're in front of your entire company of 160, and you had to just sing the song for them. So that was really cool. And on the last day of closing ceremonies, we were all given out various awards, and to my surprise, I was nominated as my company's outstanding candidate from 160 cadets. And if you would have told me that I was going to be here 3 years ago, I wouldn't have believed it, but it was because of teachers and leaders I had at Oasis that I was able to really come out of my shell and find myself and find, what I really want to do. So I now know that this is for sure where I'm meant to be, and I'm really looking forward to what's to come this upcoming school year, as well as in my future after Oasis. So with that, another student that had success at Surface Academy, we had Bryce Corcoran.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Bryce Corcoran, and I'm an upcoming senior at Oasis High School. This past summer, I had the opportunity to attend numerous programs, including Junior Cadet Leadership Challenge, or JCLC, through JRTC, Florida American Legion Boys State, and West Point Summer Leaders Experience. Today, I'll be focusing primarily on West Point Summer Leaders Experience, or SLE. SLE is designed for prospective students to get a glimpse into academy life and see if it's truly for them. It covers the three main pillars of the academy: academics, leadership, and also physical fitness. In academics, we had the opportunity to take several classes taught by professors at the actual academy, and it was a great time where we got to ask questions and truly learn the content. Leadership-wise, we had numerous briefings from career military officers, and they gave us a great perspective in leadership. Physical fitness, we had to take numerous things such as PT tests, PT in the mornings, and we also got to do other fun aspects such as obstacle courses and things of that nature. We, similar to the Naval Academy, had a fun first day called Our Day, and it's a simulation of a cadet's first day at the academy. We had cadets in our faces yelling. It was a fun time. My personal favorite part was the military training day, in which we actually went out to Camp Buckner at West Point, and we did a variety of different things, such as different exercises like low crawl and anything all the way up to shooting blanks from an M4. I would like to thank Oasis High School JRTC for providing me with this experience and helping me along this journey, specifically our SAI Colonel Epkins, Army instructor Sergeant Smith, and also our former senior Army instructor and current Dean of Students, Colonel Berner, as I certainly wouldn't be here today without their help and guidance. And up next, we have Ms. Zara Khan to talk about her summer experiences. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, all. My name is Zara Khan of Oasis High School, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the H2O To Go experience at the Florida Atlantic University. So first off, it was an overall and wonderful experience. It was very knowledgeable, and especially as a citizen of Florida, it is important to know as one that our freshwater sources are in fact not endless. They are not only dwindling because of human activities, but because our inappropriate uses of them. We have a population influx of 1,060 people per day in just the state of Florida alone, and water experts estimate that we will not have enough water to supply our population by the year 2025. We learned about the Kissimmee and the Okeechobee and the Everglades watershed, the Kissimmee River, and all the bodies of water throughout the state of Florida, and how the body of waters flow through the Florida Bay, and just how much it was modified to fit the needs of the state, just to avoid developmental areas and agricultural regions. The pre-course reading, which was Mirage by Cynthia Barnett, and it is about Florida and the vanishing waters of the eastern United States. And in this book, it provided an extensive pre-course knowledge about the course we were taking, and really allowed us to get an insight as citizens of Florida and as students that live in this state to really get insight about just how we should conserve our water in the state. We also got hands-on experiences in the cypress swamp, and it not only made us aware of the leeches, but the conditions in the Everglades and other bodies of water, and how Native Americans use like the sawgrass and wax myrtle to their everyday advantage before Florida was popularized by more advanced civilizations. Leading into that, I was able to have the fortunate opportunity of traveling to Okmulgee, Oklahoma, for a camp called Native Vision, and this is put on by the Johns Hopkins Native American Society Health Association, and I was fortunate enough to be posted as the youth leader, the youth volunteer leader. And what we did, basically, it was a 3-day camp, summer camp, promoting health and fitness and a healthy lifestyle to Native American children within the region. We had pro athletes from all over the country come over and assist these kids in learning sports such as lacrosse, football, soccer, basketball, and we had even people such as Barry Schwitzer come out and help these kids. We were setting up at registration, and I made over probably 1,000 sandwiches. I was probably sick of the scent of ham after that. But I took personal enjoyment in helping the kids make things like corn husk dolls and really showing them what it's like to lead a physically healthy lifestyle and be involved with their community more. I have to say that I wouldn't have been as excited for this experience if it wasn't for Mrs. Treese. She really, when I told her about this opportunity, she was over the moon that one of her students was going to spend their summer doing something like this, and she really got me excited about the opportunity. And I have to say, I'm grateful for a principal and a high school that supports me in my summer adventures and for supporting me through everything and giving me these opportunities. Thank you. Are there any questions? Nope. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's great.
All right.
Was that the end of the
That is
JROTC?
the end of the
Okay.
JROTC, and I will share, I wanted you to hear some of this just so that you can see connections that are now going to come back to the classroom from these experiences with the H2O. When we talk about project-based learning, it's now how can Mr. Potruk, as our marine biology teacher, bring this to real life? And Colonel Epkins has already spoken to me and the teacher about how now can we build from that? How now can we take what happened in one course and connect it to another course? So just a little bit of a connection there for you.
That's great. Mr. Zivkovic, did you have something?
I just want to add quickly, congratulations to the students that have gone on these trips. And for everybody, I wasn't aware of this, but learned it this spring in some research. The 162 students that the young lady referred to, those are students from across the country. These are very competitive camps to get into. This is not just you sign up for it, your parents pay some money and you go. This is a selection process, and if they have any ambition, it's a lot of times a first step into the academies. So if that is your goal, good luck. I wish you the best, and congratulations so far on all you've done. Great job.
Mr. Fisher?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the students for their energy, enthusiasm, and more importantly, I'm really impressed with your public speaking skills and how you're presenting yourselves. I'm going to be out of a job soon, so.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
All right, so our next group is going to also present on another wonderful initiative that has been student-led. So I'm going to actually turn it over to Bailey and Cole, and they are going to speak to you about what they've been working on this summer as well.
Good morning. My name is Bailey Peralto, and I'm a senior at Oasis High School. And this is Cole Logan, who is actually an incoming freshman at Oasis High School. We're here today to discuss the possibility of a group of Oasis High School students taking a service trip to another country in the upcoming school year. Towards the end of this past year, a couple of students were interested in the chance to travel and provide aid to another country, and with the help from our administration, including Mrs. Treese, as well as a couple of teachers, we were able to meet 4 times over the summer in order to discuss the possibilities. Now, this ranged from what services we could provide, what organizations we could work with, what countries could use those services, as well as how we can incorporate this project into our ACE Global Perspectives curriculum in order to make classroom learning more effective. And today we would just like to present those ideas to you as a possibility before coming to you for official approval in October.
Hi everybody, like Bailey said, I'm an incoming freshman, Cole Logan, for Oasis High School. In our discussions, one thing that was mentioned many times by many students and teachers alike was the notion of providing access to water and sanitation systems in rural communities. We really honed in on the idea of providing the basic need, especially given the fact that water is central not just to the functionality of a community, but to survival. Not only this, but we also believe that we as high school students would have the actual ability to both provide water systems and teach communities about the importance of disease prevention with regard to waterborne illnesses such as cholera. Another idea that we covered was the possibility of teaching sustainable water farming practices to lesser developed communities. This idea was built on the desire to, again, provide a basic necessity, this time being food, all the while helping to encourage further economic and social development in these communities. We also thought it would great to work with our local farm, Echo, to learn about sustainable farming practices if we were to pursue this option further. Now I'd like Bailey to finish us off.
Something else that was mentioned and something that we're still working on is incorporating this project into the ACE Global Perspectives curriculum. And we would do this through understanding and developing solutions to the problems that impact the country that we end up traveling to. This way, research students do has a greater impact in the real world and will help those who are traveling to learn about the communities that they will actually be helping when they're on the ground. As far as organizations are concerned, we're currently working with an umbrella organization known as Global Brigades, which helps to establish chapters in high schools and college levels to help students plan for humanitarian trips such as the one that we would like to take. Through this organization, Oasis High School would be able to choose our service focus from 3 options, those being public health, environment, and water, all of which encompass the services that we wish to provide that Cole mentioned previously. FGCU actually has a medical chapter of Global Brigades, and they have offered to provide assistance in developing our own chapter here very soon. Now, depending on our focus, we could have the chance to travel to Ghana or Honduras to build water pumps and wells for communities who've never had access to water. Or we could go to Panama to help reverse degradation and deforestation by establishing sustainable farming practices and planting new crops. Either way, Global Brigades will provide the location, the mission, and the training for such a trip. It's really just up to us to decide what we want to do, and as school starts, we plan to meet with a larger group of students to make our final conclusions. Given this, our official request for approval will consist of what our service focus is, what country we hope to travel to, specific methods of fundraising we plan to employ, and how this will be integrated into our ACE Global Perspectives curriculum. We just wanted to take this time today to ensure that you are all aware that this idea is in the works, and so you all could consider any questions or concerns you may have with a trip like this. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I don't think anybody has any questions at this point. Sounds great.
I actually had a comment, though.
Okay.
I just think it's a fabulous idea. I think it's great that the students came up with it themselves, and look forward to hearing what your proposal is when you come to us again. But I think it's a wonderful way to then bring it back into the curriculum as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next item is C, discussion of the fundraising for the upcoming school year.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to table on the new business C and D, actually both the Global Perspectives trip, the discussion for the fundraising and the discussion of the superintendent evaluation format. I still feel those are both important, but due to the length of today's meeting, I'd like to table those until the next meeting.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Okay. Do we need to take a roll call vote on that, or can we just do an aye? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so C and D are tabled for the next meeting. That brings us to E, which is discussion of teacher retention. Mr. Stevenson.
Okay, for those in the audience, I know this will be hard to read, but I just wanted to start out with talking about a couple of things. First of all, when I've looked at teacher retention data, there are so many different factors to look at. You can look at teacher retention, you can look at teacher turnover, you can look at teacher attrition. So there are multiple ways to do it. And then you can pick dates on when you do it and when you don't. In front of you, the items that I would like to reference, and I will continue to reference as I'm giving this presentation, are going to be labeled 1, 2, and 3. So if at this point, let me just make sure I'm on the right one. At this point, if you look at the one labeled number 1. Now, when I was doing analysis, the way that I look at teacher retention, and you should have also received, and I want folks at home to know as well, there's a packet of material. This is the supplementary packet that goes with all the data that I have. So in other words, if you wanted to look at me saying in 2011-12, this was the number of teachers we had at what school, it's in here. It also explains the difference between retention and turnover. I'm not really going to reference this other than it's just for your own understanding and so that you can see what's there. I got a complete list of all employees that we had, and that has been gone over with a fine-tooth comb, and I can make assurance that it's spent a lot of time on this doing it. Your Excel spreadsheet that you received as well has the same information here. This is just printed for you. But let's take a look at number one to give you an idea. Again, I'm going to first talk about what I consider turnover rate, and then later we'll go into actually the teacher retention rate, which is calculated in a different form here. Turnover rate, in my particular mindset, is looking at the number of people that began at the end of the year, or your FTE, your full-time equivalency, and then at the end of the year, how many of those people were still employed. Okay? So, for instance, if you want to take a look at teacher retention rate under number 1 of A, if you look across the top left column where it shows the number of total employees, on July 1st of 2011, at each school where CME has 60, OES has 67, OMS has 57, OHS has 27, and the other is 82. The other combines everything from custodial substitutes to full custodians to substitutes for cafeteria to full cafeteria staff to administrators. In other words, everybody that's not really considered a teacher or that at least is assigned to a building like a paraprofessional would be considered not other. That would be in the school building. So if you take a look at, for instance, CME, the front office staff would be listed in that 60. Anybody that works in the front office staff, a school nurse, people like that. The other are people like our custodial team, people that were assigned in the administrative area. So just to give you a sense of what this data shows over time is if you look at the CME where it says 60, top left corner again, we had 8 people not return that particular year. Okay? So if you can see that 8 people did not return, you follow it to the next column in 57, which is the number of employees they had on July 1st, and in that particular year, 10 did not return. This is including all staff. Okay, so this is every staff member, including teachers, including everybody. So as you look across, so when you do the math at the bottom, the turnover rate that I calculated based on July 1st, meaning who started July 1st as all staff and who left at the end of that year, are shown at the bottom. So you can see there is a trend of upward change. What I will also explain to you, though, is, or at least have you consider, is that during this time, especially the last couple years when I arrived, one of the major things that I worked on was to clear out our other list, meaning substitute list. For instance, we had some substitutes that were sitting on a list that might not have substituted for a couple of years. So by taking them off the rolls, if you will, also includes them as leaving the system. So this is a real raw data. I don't necessarily like this one so much, but it at least shows you across taking every position, taking everybody that started July 1 and the end. Below that, the B section looks at it by teacher. So if we do the same thing, you'll see in at the B line, it says 145 total teachers started on July 1st. Okay? You can look down the column there and see how many of those were at each school. And then ultimately you can see it across the years, and you can see how we've grown, which is something I want to continue to talk about, our growth in numbers of teachers over time. And then you can see percentages at the bottom. So again, we have also grown in terms of the percentage of teachers leaving. I would like to put your eye, though, to line B, where it says total. To me, this is the most telling statistic, or one of the most that I'll have today. In line B, total, where you see it says 145, the number of total teachers, and I want to make sure everybody sees that, and I'm pointing at this particular area here. The column next to it reflects that 17 teachers out of 145 that started on July 1st left that particular school year. Okay? So as you move across the line, you will see that 22 left the next year, 24 the next year, 24 the next year, and we are now at 32. One of the points that I want to make is sometimes statistics can be disaggregated in a variety of ways and look different in a variety of ways. So when we look at it systemically, which remember Advanced Ed says we need to be focusing systemically, we have lost a total of 6 more teachers than we did last year, okay, in terms of an overall. Now we'll go into high school in a moment. That's a separate animal, but I wanted you to see that. We've also had years that I would reflect to show you where we've had disparity in growth from one school year to another. And some years, for instance, the very first year of this analysis, under line B, where it says CME, we went from 3 teachers to 8 teachers. So if we wanted to do a percentage, we could say they grew more than 100% in the loss of teachers in one particular year. But I would let you know that in education, the turnover rate particularly varies greatly from one school year, from one district, and there are so many varieties of reasons for that. So this is the overview of my the turnover percentage. If you can slip to section 2, the numbers 2. This reflects more of a breakdown, giving you a percentage. So in other words, the first sheet of paper that you looked at was actually just a summary of all the data. This one actually reflects percentages so that you can see. So I like to see the percentage difference from one year to another. So if you take a look at, for instance, on this particular case, this is school year, top left corner, school year on July 1st, 2011, we had 293 people in place at that moment. At the end of the year, we had 318. Clearly, during that time over the year, we hired some positions, we hired teachers, etc. When you look at the number of overall staff in column here, you will see again that we have 293 people reflected based on where they were broken out. What I really would like you to see in this one is this is showing you, the 4th column over is showing you the number of non-returning teachers. So in this particular case, in 2011, 3 of 36 teachers at Christa McAuliffe Elementary did not return. These are teachers that started on July 1st. Now I want you to keep in mind, you could start this on August 15th, you could start this data December 1st, you could do it October. I selected a July 1st because that's when our budget year starts. So I'm doing it by FTE by that date. Otherwise, I would have to look at each year by what year we started, and then what day do you do it? Is it the first day of school? Is it a week before school? So I just picked July 1st, so we're looking at apples to apples across all these years. Again, you can see the percentage there. The column over tells you the total number of staff members per school. So in the particular case, in 2011-12, 8 staff members out of 60 did not return. Of those 8, 3 of them were teachers. So I want to make sure everybody gets that I've added everybody in that column. So 3 of those, so in other words, only 5 other employees left Christa McAuliffe that particular year. Then you can see the percentages based on all that. Well, in this particular year, looking at Oasis Middle School, just by percentage of teachers, we're at 19.57 or 5 years ago in this one particular measure. You can go down to the next line, Christa McAuliffe in 2012-13, 57 teachers started, 57 overall staff, 35 of which were teachers. 8 teachers did not return of those that started, 22.86. So on the right column, you'll see percentages as well. This means, this column on the right part here means that 12% of our teachers did not return in that particular year, using my methodology, which is starting July 1st of all the teachers that started. Total system is 17% of the people that were on the books on July 1st did not return. You can see it through the year, so this is 12-13. If you skip to the next pages, you can see 13-14 numbers, 15 and 17%, but you also see in secondary, going all the way back to 13-14, the number of teachers that did not return in terms of just numbers, 9 and 9. This is an important part that I'm going to have you take a look at in a second. So that represents, in that case, 22 or 23%. And then when you look at it by staff, then we move to the next year, which is 14-15. In this particular case, looking at just secondary alone, 10 and 10 teachers did not return. So growth over year in this particular case is we had 1 additional teacher not return. 1 more. So we've gone from 9 teachers in 13-14 looking specifically at the high school to 10 teachers looking at 14-15. Then the final number is the very last page. is the 15-16 data. In this particular case, you can see we have jumped to 16. So overall, I wanted to throw out this number of 9, 10, and 16. When we have a small population of teachers as well, when you start looking at percentages, it gets kind of a little bit tricky because, again, by percentage and 35 employees, just a short number, a few number leaving creates a significant difference. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. Is it a number that we like? Absolutely not. Is it a number that's acceptable? Absolutely not. In comparison, though, I found this statistic to be most telling. This is number 3. Number 3 here is done by the city HR department, and this is specifically looking at teacher retention at only Oasis High School. This was the question that was drawn originally, and this is only for Oasis High School retention. So when you look at this sheet here, let me see if I can get it any bigger for people in the audience. When you're looking at this sheet across the years, Oasis High School in 11-12 was at 95%, and remember, we're switching hats to teacher retention, okay? So this is teacher retention. This is the number of full-time teachers who started the school year and remained there at the end, and divided by the number of full-time employees beginning at the school start of the years. Remember, this one includes, for instance, if somebody came in and then left, was there for 2 days, whether they were there long or not. So teacher retention is done. This one, I just want you to know, is calculated by the HR department of the city. So 95% in 2011-12. 2012-13, we're at 92.6%. 13-14, we dropped 79.4%. 14-15 to 81.3%. And this year, 58%. Okay? So clearly the number, and I'm going to highlight it, clearly the number is not where we want it to be. We want greater teacher retention. But what I can also tell you is remember the numbers that we're talking about, 9, 10, and 16. And concept of these percentages, although they are not good, they are not acceptable in terms of the 58%. I am assuring you that we will not have that issue. But I also wanted to disaggregate it based on, well, look at other schools in Lee County if we want to compare somewhat apples to apples, although I would even make that as a tough growth issue, which I'll bring up in just a second. Looking at our 14-15 data, Lee County still does not have yet their 15-16 data, so this is comparing not apples to oranges, but apples to oranges, but as much as we can comparison. I want you to take a look at some of these schools' teacher retention rate that we're being focused on in terms of South Fort Myers High School, for instance. They were at 66.3% the year before. You can look at Lehigh Senior High at 63%, Island Coast at 72%, East Lee at 61%. And then I've even done percentages for you to see there are years, for instance, North Fort Myers High School in one particular year lost 15% in 1 year. We were at 22% this particular year. You can see South Fort Myers High is at 18%. But to further illustrate the differences over time and why people in education that aren't in education sometimes don't understand, and I want to make sure people completely understand, look at just South Fort Myers High School in the 13-14 school year. They were at 84%. Then all of a sudden, they dropped to 66.3%. So you're talking about a small number of individuals that can affect the overall, and keep in mind, South Fort Myers High School has a lot more teachers than we have at Oasis High School, so again, the percentage is smaller. So now going into the myriad of potential reasons, well, none of this I want to sound like an excuse. None of this is a rationale for why, hey, this is okay and we should sweep it under the rug. We've had conversations as a board about teacher retention. I would remind the community as well that over time, we have not been able to pay our staff members equal salary for their direct competition. So we're asking, when I say this is comparing to apples, I believe we're comparing apples to oranges in some ways, in that we're asking our employees to stay, maybe potentially do more, at least as much as their colleagues with less money in their pockets. So this salary issue has been one that has been a long-term coming. Our system has seen tremendous growth. One of the things that I would like the community to know, and one of the things that I continue to discuss and will continue to discuss, is taking the size of our system, the realization that over 11 years of our history now, we have gone from about 50 school students at the beginning, 100 students, whatever, I've heard different numbers, to now around 3,200 students. 3,200 students with the number of staff members we have puts us somewhere in line with the 52nd largest school district in the state of Florida, meaning that our system, and yes, we look at it as, oh my gosh, we're just 4 little schools, we're actually larger than 15 other of the 67 counties in the state of Florida. This in itself, the growth method, also would hint of the fact that we are going to see differences in turnover over time. Turnover rates vary wildly from one school year to another and even within schools. Teacher attrition is a major issue, and providing a real-world example, the Lee County School District's HR director had to actually travel to Puerto Rico to try to recruit teachers at a time when they were paying more than we are paying our teachers. I have a myriad of articles that I would be willing to share and highlight to anybody that talks about teacher retention rates and data. Teachers preparing for the new Lee school year, they're talking about being short 400 teachers at one point earlier on. This article talks about Lee County School District combats costly teacher turnover, so they're having the same issues that we have over time. Another article that I have says half of Lee teachers leave their jobs within 5 years, creating a difficult retraining costs. I also happened to be at a restaurant and picked up Florida Weekly magazine that just happened to be out there that I would show that talks about 20% of Florida teachers' dropout rates over the national average, and we're 39th on the list of pay. None of this is to denigrate Lee County schools. They are working very hard to try to retain teachers and keep them just as we are. But I did want to bring up the point that pay has been a substantial barrier for us all along. The City of Cape Coral, our sponsors, have been very helpful with us over time. We've been very appreciative of their resolve to keep and help maintain our system as we are. But I would also make the connotation that since the Great Recession hit, as we all know about, the City of Cape Coral has had the capacity to be able to partly right the ship in terms of salary for employees. In our system, as you know, in the last year when I first arrived, we were able to give a 1.5% raise across the board. This year it was 2.5% or 3.5%. So over almost 2 years now, we've been able to give either 4 or 5%, clearly not matching what the City of Cape Coral has been able to do for theirs as well. I also wanted to mention, too, with size comes some requirements. Think of any organization. I imagine the first McDonald's that ever opened, the restaurant, probably had not many rules, policies, procedures. I bet when they made the hamburgers, they weren't all as uniform as they wanted them to be. However, as McDonald's grew, guess what? Their policies and procedures had to be in place to do the things that needed to be done correctly. So, for instance, maybe early on when our staff members enjoyed a class size of 10 students, we may not have had to have as many rules in terms of teacher lesson planning and being out in the halls and making sure that teachers arrived on time and some of the basic teaching tenets. However, because of the size of our system now, it is a part of growth that we certainly now have to deal with this. Clearly, our Neola policies were a great indication of where we needed to be, and that was from an outside consultant. Our advanced ed group has seen the same thing. They had mentioned to us that growth has been an issue. We should slow down a little bit, look in terms of the silo mentality, and try to work together and do that. So I would also like to bring into context a little backstory that I've been here now approximately 20 months, and some of the teachers that were upset at the high school were also the same teachers that came and talked to me about the previous principal that was there before our current principal. So much of what I've heard has been, I believe, a long time coming. So that's also very interesting. The high school expansion, just to give you an idea, in 6 short years, has gone from 50 students to 765 currently. So imagine that in growth of an industry and a business. So certainly you're going to have some issues there. Did we lose some amazing teachers? Absolutely. And I will stand up here and tell you that is it a hurt to our system? Absolutely. Are we going to have to move forward just as Lee County, just as Collier County and other counties do? Absolutely. Some of the issues for teachers leaving this year I can't go into. They're simply personnel issues. But there are reasons for all of that. Another important note that I want to be clear as well is that the state mandates for testing have changed dramatically over what they were even 5, 6, 7 years ago, even as of a couple of years ago. We will never, ever as a system teach to a test, ever. But it also requires us to maybe look at the student body that we have. When we had 200 students, perhaps the number of students at the middle or bottom level needing extra retention or other coursework was much less. Now we need to do what they call differentiation in our world. And so That is a change for some of the teachers that had been there traditionally for a long time. That had not been a capacity to say, oh my gosh, what do I do about a student that can't read in my class that's having issues? So that is also, in terms of growth, something else. But we will never teach to a test. What we are going to do is make sure that students have wide world-class opportunities, such as was presented earlier by some of the students in their idea to go overseas. The other factor that I wanted to talk about is terminations. I wanted it to be clear, at some point I've heard that we have terminated, or I have terminated, in my 20 months of tenure, something like 120 employees or something along that lines, and that was out there at some point. I will let you know that I have been here since January 1st, technically started December 15th, which is 3 or 4 days before our Christmas break in 2014. Since then,